In this video, we'll be taking a look at CRYO by Ecliptiq Audio. CRYO is a Kontakt instrument perfect for sound designers and people wanting to create otherworldly atmospheric textures. In this video, we'll be taking a look at some of the sounds it's capable of, from browsing some of the presets to designing and sculpting some of these sounds. So I've created this whole loop using only sounds from CRYO. I started with this kick drum sound, using one of the hit presets and tweaking that, and then I added this snare using lots of automation. And some hi-hats. An arpeggiator. A drone. Stabs. So CRYO is capable of a multitude of different sounds. It's ideal for sound designers and people wanting to create otherworldly atmospheric textures or even film score type sound effects. I've loaded up an instance of CRYO here in its default state. Let's dive around some of the presets. We get a series of arpeggiators. We could of course go in and edit this sequence or arpeggiator sound, going into our arpeggiator settings. We can change length and steps. We also have a mode option for the arpeggiator, being able to dial in a number of different scales. Go back into our presets now. We also get a series of drones. At the heart of CRYO is the two sound sources. Click on our sound button and we can select different sound sources for either one of these effectively layers. Clicking on this drop down. Meaning we can create all sorts of different sounds using a combination of, in this example, say an arpeggiated sound and a boom sound. As well as familiar volume, tune and pan controls, we also get this grain and grain length option, controlling the grain length of the granular synthesis. So let's go ahead and load in a different preset now and choose one of the growl presets. So let's hit on this Atmo button. From here we can set up different impulse responses on each of our sound sources. We actually get a choice of 250 different impulse responses that we can load onto the individual layers. With familiar controls such as low pass, high pass, dry, wet and pre-delay. We can also link this Atmo layer to direct the one impulse response to both sound sources. Go back to the presets. Load one of these hit presets now. Let's go over here and have a look at the effects. We get up to 5 effect slots for each sound. From here we have the spatial effect loaded already, which is a stereo imaging effect. As well as a chorus, delay, a trasher, as well as a number of other effects such as a filter from which we can dial in a number of different filter types. As well as a bit crusher including a sample rate reduction. And a flanger. Let's go back to our presets now. I'll have a look at some of these plucks. So we also have lots of modulation options on CRYO. We have 3 LFOs. Being able to click on the LFO and direct it so LFO 1 is already modulating the pan of source 1. We just click on the destination drop down to direct it to modulate other parameters. We get a sequencer, up to 3 sequencers, each one can modulate 2 parameters. We click this little drop down here and we can dial in our sequencer movements. And also adjust the smoothness. So the onset of the sequencer, so a larger value will produce a smoother attack with the modulation. We have 3 modulation envelopes, again being able to direct these to a number of different parameters. You can see it's a very advanced modulation system. And we have velocity, where we can make parameters velocity sensitive, key tracking, as well as quite a nice macro section. So in the macro section we have 3 macros. We can direct them to modulate a number of different parameters, and then in our little drop down here, these control the volume of these macros. So this first macro is modulating the tune 1 of the source 1 tune, the source 2 tune, the filter cutoff frequency and the spatial width. Various different amounts of modulation. So now using this one control down here, we're actually controlling all 4 of these parameters. And again we have 3 macros, each one can control up to 5 different destinations. Just clicking on the drop down and we can direct the macro to control whichever destination, either positive modulation or negative modulation. As you can see, the combination of advanced presets with lots of modulation and programming in them already, that we can very easily just tweak and customize using the sound source layers to select different sounds for each one of these. Also going into the Atmo and controlling impulse responses, an advanced series of effects and quite a deep modulation system makes CRYO incredibly useful for sound designers, people wanting to create atmospheric textures or even film scores. Be sure to check out CRYO by Ecliptiq Audio, which is available now at adsrsounds.com.